when I call your name, every fear is banished from here. When you call my name, I'll come running, running to you, and you say, come to me. Spread your wings, catch the wind, he's carrying you.
Shalom, and welcome to this month's Jerusalem Dispatch, ICEJ UK. And this is the ministry that brings you a closer connection to Israel and the Jewish people through the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, UK. And in this month's programme, we'll be talking about the shocking murder of baby Kafir Bibas and his older brother Ariel that were brutally murdered at the hands of Hamas, and asking, where is the moral outrage? But we'll also be marking the Jewish festival of Purim and asking, as Christians, how can we stand up against the modern day Hamans? And in this programme today, I'm joined by Len Grates, Operations Director for the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, UK, and Pastor Sam Henry, who is the Midlands Regional Leader. So welcome to the programme. And Len, it's great to see you back on the programme. I love working with you. You do a great job. So just want to unpack for us the ministry of ICEJ UK, what the ministry's been up to in the past month, and how this ministry is playing a pivotal role in helping the Jewish people and the nation of Israel during their time of crisis.
Well, we've been doing quite a bit of planning this month as well for the year, which we'll talk about a bit later. But we're continuing to build bridges with the Jewish community, which has been very profitable and exciting. You know, that the walls are beginning to break down between Jew and Christians, which is something we've been looking forward to seeing for a long time. So we're very encouraged that the Jewish community, particularly here in the UK, are beginning to trust us a little, and obviously trust has got to be earned. So we're working on that one.
Very good, very good. And Sam, it's good to see you back on Jerusalem Dispatch, a big smile on your face, also representing the Midlands or the West or the Black Country. I don't know, or Brummy Land, I think we said before. But just share with us what you've been involved in, particularly how God is moving in the Midlands regarding his people, the nation of Israel, and the Jewish people. And of course, you also had your regional conference only a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, Simon, it's really good to see you. It's good to be back on Revelation TV. Yes, God really is moving in the Midlands. I'm pleased to say that. And as far as the support for the ICEJ, I'm pleased to share with you that there's a growing interest of local pastors. In 2023, I took 3 pastors, Pastor Gilroy, Pastor Simon, and Pastor Adam, and I must say that all 3, since they've come back, their lives have been changed by the Envision conference in Israel. And that is the key. So Simon and Adam in particular, that's father, son.
They're great guys. They are great guys.
They're doing a great job, Simon. And they I would say, are the bedrock of what we're doing, because as a team, they themselves have really been able to bring in collectively, we're talking about double figures now, double figures of local pastors in the Black Country. They really feel called to the Black Country. So we're not talking about Birmingham, Simon. We're talking about the Black Country.
And you're from Wolverhampton.
So Wolverhampton, Dudley, Walsall, Sandwell. And it's a big area. So this is the former industrial giant of the Great Britain. And God is really doing the work. Last week we had Derek Frank. Locally, he came and did a masterful presentation on replacement theology, and I tell you what, Simon, it was just amazing. The room was nearly packed with local leaders from across. We had not just locally, but we had people coming further afield, Tenbury Wells, Liverpool, coming down to the Midlands. So I really feel, just to call it short, God is birthing something right in the Midlands, which is a love for Israel and a love for Christ and his love for Israel. It's really amazing.
Wonderful. So if you're watching and you're in the Midlands, get in touch with Sam and get involved in ICEJ UK in the Midlands and be blessed. Then, as Sam was mentioning, the Envision conference where he learned so much and other pastors have learned so much. Can you just give us an update on this year's Envision conference for pastors and leaders in Jerusalem that took place between February the 3rd and the 6th last month?
Yeah. One of our leaders, Jonathan Croft, who appears often on the program with us here, took about 6 people to Jerusalem, and as Sam rightly said, it did the same again as what it did for his group. Well, it revolutionised them. It transformed them. All 6 folk who went were deeply impacted and had their eyes opened, and came back with vision and passion to actually get involved with us and also to get the message of Israel out there. In fact, they're already doing it. One couple who went out from Cambridge has already arranged a meeting that's taking place very shortly with an Israeli Messianic worship leader in Cambridge. So if you want to know about anything like that, get in touch with the office and we'll put the information on our website. So yeah, we're excited that it envisions people. That's why it's called it the Envision Conference, to get involved with Israel and the Jewish people with us at the ICEJ. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that.
Wonderful. And Sam, just share with us how your involvement with the ministry of ICEJ UK has helped you develop a deeper understanding of God's plans and purposes for Israel and the Jewish people.
Yes, so definitely it has impacted my life in many ways. It is very true, Simon, that God said, I will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. And I've taken that literally. So for me, getting to know about the God of Israel, about the people of Israel, who are these people? Not just from the biblical perspective, but modern day, and connecting the two together. So I've read all the stories of the Bible, Moses, Abraham, David, and the Lord Jesus himself and his disciples, but bringing it to the modern times. I think it's probably the most exciting thing for me to see and actually go to Israel, see the land that I've read about for all of my life in reality. And it's impacted me in many ways. I think from a biblical perspective, I love the fact that probably over 2/3 of the Bible is prophecy. And I've always loved that aspect of the Bible, foretelling the future. And to see literally many of the prophetic scriptures come into reality before my eyes is exciting. And to be involved on the cutting edge, I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of that story? It's amazing. We are living literally the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, Simon. And I think any Christian who loves the Lord and loves the Bible, read the Bible, come on. This is one of the greatest ways.
Got a term for that. It's called living in biblical times.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the fulfillment of God's prophetic word. And Len, do you want to share with our viewers as well some of the exciting conferences that are going to be dotted around the UK in the coming months? So anyone watching who wants to come along to one of the conferences, hear one of the great speakers, can do so.
Well, we have a very exciting year of events, all under the sort of title of Apple of God's Eye. That's the theme for the year. And we have prayer events and conferences ranging from Glasgow, Edinburgh, Swindon, Lincoln, Southampton, London, Liverpool. There'll be something within reach of most people this year. And we have a fantastic lineup of speakers, and worship leaders too. So if you want to get involved with us, get in touch with the office, and we'll put you in touch and let you know where these conferences are. It's going to be a really good year.
Wonderful. So let's have now a look at the overview of the ministry that is the International Christian Embassy at Jerusalem, because after all, we are your embassy in Israel. Take a look.
Israel. It is the heart of the Middle East, the most important country in all of human history. and the single most influential place that's impacted your life. It was the home of the prophets, the location that once held the Holy of Holies, and the birthplace of the Gospels. The connection between this land and your heart is undeniable, but you can also be a blessing to this nation by partnering with the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. Now is an exciting time to be a part of what God is doing in Israel. Biblical prophecy is being fulfilled before our eyes. The Jewish people are returning to their homeland from the four corners of the earth, and life has returned to the land itself. And the Holy Spirit has been moving on the heart of Christians, just like you, to be a part, and ICEJ has been there. For more than 35 years, ICEJ has been the direct connection to the land of Israel for Christians all around the world. And together, we are helping the needy, providing shelter for Holocaust survivors, integrating new immigrants, supporting minorities, mentoring youth at risk, and have actively helped 120,000 Jews come home to Israel. These are just a few of the people groups ICEJ is impacting. And with a reach of over 170 nations, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has become a leading voice of Christian support and friendship to the Jewish people. So get involved and be a blessing to the nation and the people of Israel. The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. Your embassy, your voice. Join us today.
So if you want to be a blessing to Israel and the Jewish people, then why don't you sign up to the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK and be part of this ministry that is on the front line in providing vital humanitarian aid to Israel at this critical time. Sam, we're seeing that flights are opening up a little bit more to Israel, which is great news, particularly after it feels like Israel's longest war in its history against Hamas and then against Hezbollah, which meant that travel restrictions were pretty much in place going to Israel, making it very difficult. But share with us how our viewers who are maybe not very mobile or haven't got the finances to go to Israel can enjoy the Walk the Land series that is shown on the ICJ's social media sites and also their YouTube page.
Yes, Simon. So the Walk with Jesus is a brand new series that the ICJ put together. It's on YouTube, and there's 21 episodes. It's on every Tuesday, and I just happened to look at one of the episodes recently, which talked about the Valley of Jezreel. Now, I've read about that in Revelation. What is it? And these series really, it's filmed in high quality. It's in the land, and they're using some of the best reporting that I've seen in terms of showing the land, the real land, and bringing the Bible to life. And that's the key thing. It's bringing the Bible to life in the modern day.
I think you've said it so well. Do you want to introduce it?
This is Walk with Jesus in the Land. Enjoy.
Did you know that the Jezreel Valley, nicknamed as the Valley of War due to its rich history, served as a strategic battlefield for millennia? Megiddo itself is the site of the ancient city of Megiddo and is known for its strategic position overlooking the Jezreel Valley. The book of Revelation designates the Jezreel Valley as the site of the final epic battle between good and evil. Though it may seem bleak, we know from Scripture that God will ultimately triumph. What a great and powerful victory there will be, the one whom all mankind has been waiting for, the desire of the nations. Our victor over evil and injustice will finally bring his judgment. Are you prepared for the Lord's return? Seek God's guidance and find comfort in knowing that He will protect you and give you strategies for every battle. Remember Psalm 91, though 1,000 fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, no harm will overtake you.
So that is Walking the Land series with Jesus that is produced by the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. There we saw Megiddo, which will be the battleground for the final battle of Armageddon mentioned in the book of Revelation. So you saw it with your own eyes. And Len, sadly, we have to talk about the horrific murder of the Bibas family. And this was when Israel knew about this, was back on Thursday, the 20th of February, and found that poor baby Kafir Bibas, who was 10 months old, and his brother Ariel, who was 4, and their mother Shiri were murdered. But the baby and the toddler were strangled to death by their captors, and then their bodies mutilated by rocks to make it look like this was an Israeli airstrike. Just share with us how absolutely horrific murder these children experienced at the hands of Hamas, and how they came home to Israel in coffins.
I'm really lost for words, Simon. This must be one of the most despicable acts of evil that I've come across. You know, the fact that it was children, you know, undefensible, they were innocent. What had they done? And you know, I've been on the verge of tears many times. Just last week, in fact, I was in London joining the Jewish community as we had a memorial service. It was the day the bodies were released, and there were probably about 300-400 of us in central London, just outside Downing Street. And we did a public memorial service for them, and it was so moving. I was on the verge of tears most of the day, because you know these things, they're not news items, they're reality. And if we're not touched by these sort of things, then I don't know what ever will touch us. You know, Israel is in a state of mourning. I was watching the funeral service, and to see thousands and thousands of people there, and tens of thousands on the route with their Israeli flags, letting go of orange balloons. You know, I'm never going to see orange in the same light again in my life. I think every time I see something orange, I'll be thinking of these kids and this family, and Shira, the wife, you know, what she must have gone through. But you know, I do believe that this was probably the last nail in the coffin of any two-state solution that was on the table for Israel and the Palestinian people. I think that what's happened as a result of October 7 and all the following things that's happened has killed off any hope of any peace with the Palestinians at all. You know, even the older man who was returned last week, I've forgotten his name, but you know, he is a man who's spent his life serving the Palestinian people, taking them to hospital in their car, taking kids to hospital. And the very people he helped were the ones that killed him, that took him captive. And how can that be? How can it be? You know, all I say is, come, Lord Jesus. I don't know how long this can go on for.
And Sam, just describe the horrendous psychological warfare that Hamas used, not only with the horrific murder of the Bibas family, but the fact is that they gave a body that was an unidentified body, saying that this is the body of Shiri, the mother of Ariel and the mother of Kafir, and yet that their mother was returned later in a coffin. So I'm struggling with my words, because this is just so absolutely horrific that Hamas would actually do this, and hopefully the world would wake up to realise how evil Hamas is. Share with us your thoughts on how evil Hamas is.
Yes, Simon, immediately what comes to my mind is the words of Jesus himself, who said very clearly that the thief comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. And I think for any civilized person, I join with Len and yourself, it brings you very close to tears to think that what we're seeing really, who's behind all this, Simon? Satan. Those people and I'll say to anybody who can hear me, this is more than just a natural thing. This is a spiritual evil, and the entity behind that is Lucifer himself. And we're seeing the face of Lucifer through Hamas. You know, we can see that everything that they do is to inflict the worst type of pain, physical, mentally, and spiritual. But the hope that I have is through the love of Christ, we will overcome that evil.
Amen. And Len, I'm angry about this. I'm not only angry at our political leaders and the NGOs and also our media. The fact there's been very little indignation. There's been very little outcry of how evil and barbaric Hamas actually are. But one thing I'm staggered about is the silence of church leaders when it's come to this brutal murder of a 10-month-old baby at the hands of Hamas. Share with us your thoughts on how the church needs to speak up. If it doesn't speak up for Israel, then speak up on behalf of the Bibas family, because we know that Israel's mourning and the Jewish people in this country and around the world are also feeling that pain, but the silence of the church is deafening.
Yeah. Like you say, Andrew, Simon, I'm also very angry at what's going on here. It's a disgrace. Is the way I can only describe it. It's a disgrace that the silence is speaking louder than the cries of the world. And you know, what we've seen with the BBC and ITV and Channel 4 and Sky News is also disgraceful.
Yeah.
You know, just last evening there was a huge demonstration with the Jewish community outside the BBC, complaining because what did the BBC do in the last week? They put on a documentary, basically saying Hamas are the good guys, put it in a nutshell, and it's a disgrace. And where is the voice of the church? And I'm ashamed that we've been too quiet on this whole issue. Where is the voice? And I think it's indicative that the church has lost sight of its calling to bless Israel. And that's sad, and we need to be praying that God will have mercy on the church on this particular matter.
Amen. So now, if you don't know this story, which you should have done, let's have a now look at this excellent video that's been put together by the Israeli Foreign Ministry that really does show, for example, Kafir Bibas, their mother Shiri, and also 4-year-old Ariel, who were brutally murdered by Hamas in November of 2023.
Today is a tragic day. It's a day of boundless sorrow, of indescribable pain. 4-year-old Ariel Bibas, his baby brother, 1-year-old Kfir, and 84-year-old Oded Lifshitz were brutally murdered by Hamas savages. Their bodies returned home to a nation in mourning, a nation that will never forget and never forgive the evil that cut down these beautiful souls. Since that black day on October 7th, when Hamas butchered and burned 1,200 of our families and friends, Israel waited with bated breath, hoping beyond hope that our hostages would survive the Hamas hell. Against all odds, we succeeded to bring many home. Some we rescued, some we tragically couldn't. The Bibas children in particular became the symbol of who we are and who we're fighting against. Here's a photo of the Bibas brothers. These perfect children, again, were 4 years old and less than 1-year-old when the Hamas savages snatched them from their mother's arms. She fought like a lioness to protect her boys. Just imagine their horror. Imagine their confusion. Perfect little children who never hurt a soul. A baby, for the love of God. They languish in captivity until Hamas murdered them in cold blood. Who kidnaps a little boy and a baby and murders them? Monsters, that's who. These Hamas monsters also cynically refused to bring back the boy's mother, Shiri, and sent the body of a Gazan woman instead, in brazen violation of the agreement. Today, the heavens shake. The entire civilized world should condemn these horrific murders. The entire civilized world should join Israel in demanding the immediate release of all the hostages. All of Israel is united in grief. And as the Prime Minister of Israel, I vow that I will not rest until the savages who executed our hostages are brought to justice. They do not deserve to walk this earth. Nothing will stop me. Nothing. Ariel, Kfir, and Oded, I'm so sorry we couldn't save you from the monsters who did this. We honor your kind and loving souls, so tragically cut down by evil terror. May your memories forever be a blessing and a reminder to all of us that we must fight this evil and eradicate it from the face of this earth.
Thank you, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, for your moral clarity. And I think we can all learn from what the Prime Minister has said, that we need to comfort the Jewish people, we need to comfort Israel, who are feeling deep pain at the horrific murder of the Bibas family. But let's just pay a thought for the Yardin, the father of Kafir, the father of Ariel, who's lost his 2 children, and his wife as well at the hands of Hamas. The grief must be unbearable, so please keep him in our prayers. Sam, we're moving on to our next topic, which is very much linked. We are going to talk about the Jewish festival of Purim, which in Hebrew means of the casting of lots, and we know that this is God's incredible story of deliverance and salvation for the Jewish people who faced extermination and annihilation at the hands of Haman during the Persian Empire. But share with us your thoughts in this country on the unprecedented rise of Jew hatred that we've seen in this country and around the world in the aftermath of October the 7th mass terrorist attack by Hamas.
Yeah, so Simon, I'll just share with you, I just don't want to just share my thoughts, but in answer to that question, I want to share the thoughts of my friend, Josh Nico, who I got to know as a great friend. I met him, I think last year in Wolverhampton. And Josh is a reporter, so he does a lot of storytelling. And I asked him this morning, Josh, just give me your thoughts on the Jewish community. So I'm just going to read out to you Josh's words directly unscripted. The Jewish community is hurting. Many British Jews are closely linked through family. The community or friendship, many Jews are closely linked through family to the community or friendship to those who have been held hostage or murdered. All Christians should put themselves in the shoes of British Jews. And I would say to every Christian who can hear me and see me, put yourself today in the shoes of Jewish people that live maybe down the road from where you live or not far from where you live. Whatever your politics and views on events in Israel and Palestine, it should be the natural and the human thing to do to condemn Hamas's despicable brutality and express solidarity with the Jewish families who have suffered grievously. And it's very hard to put it into words, Simon, but what I would say really now, I urge every Christian who loves the Lord Jesus, take some time out and look deep in your heart. How can we as Christians who owe a great depth of gratitude to the Jewish people who gave us the Holy Bible? And Simon, can I just add to this? I was asking the question, I did a bit of research, and I asked the question, if we were to remove the Holy Bible, which came from the Jewish people, totally from our society, think about it. If we were to remove the Bible in every sense, all those words away from British society, what would we have, Simon?
Anarchy.
Absolutely. So it goes to say, folks, let us really take things seriously and look in our hearts and try and show the love of Jesus to our Jewish friends.
And Len, sadly, the UK no longer feels like a safe place for Jewish people. And of course, every Shabbat dinner, many Jewish families up and down this country will be asking, do they have a future in this country? But more importantly, what does it say about our country that recorded instances of Jew hatred are the second ever highest on record, according to the Community Security Trust's annual report on Jew hatred for 2024.
It's a big black mark on our nation, really, that is the case. And you know, the rise of anti-Semitism has been progressing over the years, and as you rightly say, the last couple of years it's increased phenomenally. In fact, as a result of that, more and more Jews are thinking of leaving the country and moving to Israel. You know, this past year there's been a 65% increase of Jewish people leaving the UK to go back to Israel, and you know, they're feeling unsafe, very unsafe, and you know, we need to be out there showing our support and standing alongside them. We need to express our support, and the sad thing is that the Christian world is so quiet and so inactive, and you know, that's a stain on us as well. You know, where is our love and compassion for the people who gave us our faith, gave us our Bible, gave us everything that we have in our Christian understanding? Why can't we go out there and just say thank you, you know, and support them? It just doesn't make sense to me. And there's a blindness on the church as well as on the Jewish people, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm just going to give you some statistics, because it was last month, back in February, that the Community Security Trust that provides security for the Jewish community, they also provide an annual report looking into recorded instances of anti-Semitism in the UK. Have published their annual report where they say it's the second largest reported instances of Jew hatred on record. So these are the figures for 2024. So CST recorded 3,528 anti-Semitic instances in the UK in 2024, the second highest total ever reported to the CST in a single calendar year. This is a decrease of 18% from 4,296 anti-Jewish instances recorded by the CST in 2023, which remains the record annual total ever reported, and was fueled by responses to the October the 7th terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel that year. CST recorded 1,662 anti-Semitic instances in 2022, 2,261 in 2021, and 1,684 in 2020. Just share with us how these figures are staggering, but also these figures are most probably underreported, Sam.
Yeah, Simon. Just in reflection on what you just read, I would dare say, and I don't want to get too political about, but we have.
You can get political. That's fine.
We have to face the facts. Let me just say, the BBC, particularly, as we all know, has been very anti-Semitic in their reporting. People do listen to the news. People watch the news daily. They watch BBC on social media, on almost every channel. And I do believe, Simon, that has influenced negatively a lot of the British people. The negative reporting. No, I'm from Birmingham. I grew up in Birmingham. I was born in Birmingham. And it is shocking for me, going back to Birmingham, the very violent anti-Semitic feeling that is coming from certain parts of Birmingham. And if left unchecked, what are we going to face? Because there's a saying, the Jew first and then the Christian next. So I'm saying to everybody, it's not just the Jewish people that are at threat here. We as Christians, our very way of life in this country of Great Britain, which we all love, is at stake. And to read these stats, I'm not surprised, Simon, that we're seeing an increase in anti-Semitism, because it's directly linked to the very anti-Semitic British media that is fueling. Look at the pro-Palestinian marches that we had recently. I was shocked, Simon, at the sight of, alongside those who've held very strong anti-Jew views. Alongside marching with them were people that I see almost every day, ordinary British people, marching and crying out and shouting and chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Now, for me, living in this country, that is shocking. It tells me that we are very close to what Germany was like. I know it's not nice to say that, but the reason why Hitler was able to get away with the extreme and terrible Holocaust was that most of the German people were silent. The good people were silent. Evil is allowed to go unchecked when good people remain silent. We now cannot remain silent. I refuse to remain silent. I talk to my local councillors and I raise these issues about, I know it's not, again, political, but I'm going to say this. I think that the rise of Islam in our country and the virulent, not the peaceful form, but the very virulent form of Islam is a real threat to our Christian, I use the word peaceful and coexistent way of life. The good thing about our faith, our faith is that Jesus taught us to love our enemies. That is a very big difference, Simon, in what we're seeing today. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, thank you. And let's have a look now at this CBN News report, where it reports on the fact that Jewish people in the UK no longer feel safe here in Britain today.
This is the United Kingdom that British Jews experience today.
Zionists, they are filthy animals.
Like obedient sheep, you obey Israel.
The whole condemning Hamas, I'm not going to condemn them, and Israel doesn't exist.
Most British Jews now no longer believe they have a future here. Recent polling has also found that most Jews hide their Jewishness in public and do not feel welcome in the United Kingdom. Gideon Falter is chief executive of Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, which commissioned the poll and has been documenting the rising Jew hatred.
A lot of people have talked about whether they have a future in this country. Do I think the Jewish community in the UK is going to evaporate? No. But I do think there is a sizable conversation now happening within the community of people saying, okay, is this the place that we've got a future?
There were nearly 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents reported in the first half of 2024, the highest number ever recorded for a 6-month period. 9 out of 10 British Jews say the government is not doing enough to stop the violence and discrimination.
I know some who have left. I know some who are actively, seriously looking at leaving.
Jewish investigative journalist David Collier tells us he constantly feels the anti-Jewish hate.
I get death threats every single day, but I'm also being contacted by Jews either who are having trouble at work, at home, students.
What brings you both out here today?
Well, just the amount of anti-Semitism we've had in Oxford for the past year has been really awful. We've had swastikas, we've had Jews being accused of weaponising anti-Semitism.
We've been told we're not welcome at the university.
Yeah, and it just...
down the streets.
It's been escalating, and this is the big message, it's about the escalation, you know, it's getting gradually worse.
This in a nation where the adopted national song is Jerusalem. In the song Jerusalem, the British sing, "We will not cease till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land." But this Judeo-Christian connection that goes back centuries has begun to fray. Surveys show British Jews consider Islamists to be the most serious threat. And in a close second is the far left. Falter adds the nation's young people are being indoctrinated against Jews.
They are becoming radicalized on the internet. They are imbibing bigotries that their parents themselves don't have. And then they're teaching this from one kid to another kid. We've got a generation which is extremely hateful. And not just hateful, they're extremists.
Some non-Jews have seen the danger and are publicly supporting Britain's Jews. Mark Burbeck began the group Our Fight after he witnessed the lack of public support for Jews in Israel following the October 7th massacre.
Shock at the lack of empathy that people had for the Israeli people, the Jewish people after October the 7th. In that period, a few of us were going to these vigils that were being organised by the Israeli community, and we sort of thought, we need to do something.
Another group supporting Britain's Jews is Christian Action Against Antisemitism, led by pastors Tim and Haley Gutman.
Our heart was to do something publicly that showed the Jewish people we stand with them, we love them, we're with them in solidarity. They're not alone, especially amidst this rising anti-Semitism.
David Collier is afraid demographics have already decided the future course of Britain's Jews. The most popular name for baby boys in Britain today is Mohammed.
It's a completely different country. The entire dynamic has changed, the entire atmosphere has changed, both towards Israel and in extension towards the Jewish community. It's completely different. It's a different country with a different demographic, a different outlook. Everything about it is different. You're talking to these Jewish people, and you know that things are only going to get worse for them, not better. There's no way back for the United Kingdom from this point. As far as I see it, no way back.
Falter has decided to stand and fight for the future, with the hope that more non-Jews will join him.
I think a lot of people don't realize how anti-Semitism relates to them, but they don't see it as something that's going to actually hit home, hit them. Whatever happens with anti-Semitism in this country, if extremism continues to surge in the way that it is now, this country's in for dark days, and so is the West.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, London.
And an excellent report there, courtesy of our friends at CBN and Dale Hurd in particular, and really does mean that we need to step up our game and really stand in solidarity with Israel and the Jewish people. Would you like to sum up? Because the fact is that Jewish people feel that they don't have a future anymore. They feel that the church is silent when it comes to this rise of Jew hatred, and there's been no kind of more outrage regarding the death of the Bibas family. And the baby and the toddler and the mother. It's no wonder they question their future, is it? And just show us how Christians can really step in that gap by showing the Jewish community the love that they really deserve.
Well, you know, I honour Haley and Tim Gutman for what they're doing with Christian Against Anti-Semitism. We've supported them in some of their events. And in fact, I've spoken along with yourself, actually, at a couple of them. And so, you know, we're trying to do our best to show our support. And actually, there's things going on behind the scenes at the moment, which I'm blessed to be involved in trying to build bridges more and more with the Jewish people, and looking to do, you know, events together. And so, you know, this is a wonderful opportunity for the Christians to rise up, because the Jewish people are looking for friends.
Absolutely.
And who are their natural friends? It should be us. We should be knocking on the door. We should be putting our hands up saying, I'm here. But we're not. And so I want to encourage the viewers that, listen, do something. Don't just listen, and be active. Contact the local Jewish community. Don't tell them about Jesus. Just go and love them. Just go and give them support. Just go and say, listen, you're not alone. They need to know that, and they need to know it loud and clear.
Absolutely. And Sam, the Jewish festival of Purim falls on, according to my notes, the evening of Thursday the 13th of March and finishes on Friday the 14th of March. Share with us why it's so important, particularly as we relate to Israel and the Jewish people, that Christians understand and read the book of Esther and actually relate to what's happening to the Jewish people today as it happened in Esther and Mordecai's time under the ancient Persian Empire.
Yes, it's very important, Simon, for one very simple reason. The story of Esther, and I would encourage everybody, if you haven't watched the film Esther, you can get it on Amazon Prime. It's a great film. There's many different versions, but I think the recent version, modern version, is really excellent. It's a great story. But there is an ancient evil, and I mentioned earlier on in my speech that, you know, Lucifer, Satan, the devil is behind that. So let's look at that story. We had an evil person called Haman, who was from the Persian Empire. Isn't it ironic that the country behind all this Hamas is again the ancient but modern day country called Iran? So the story of Esther, Purim, is all about how Haman took a dislike to Mordecai, Esther's uncle, and he sought not only to, when Mordecai refused to bow to him, he'd just been promoted by the king, and he loved his position, and he wanted all of those who were below him to bow to him. However, Mordecai, as you know, the Jews only bow to their God. They do not bow to any human entity. And so when Mordecai refused to bow, Haman decided, you know what? I'm not just going to get you, Mordecai, but I'm going to destroy all of your people. And that is the story of Esther. You can read about it. Esther stood in the gap and saved her people.
Absolutely.
And again today, what it links to us, because we can see that when people repeat that term, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's not just Gaza that they want free. They want all Jews off the land. Now that is something that we cannot tolerate.
In other words, they're calling for a genocide, again, against the Jewish people, just as Haman did.
Absolutely.
And Len, share with us the kind of your thoughts on the biblical account of Queen Esther, of how God raised up Queen Esther. And I mean, it's a brilliant story. You have a beauty contest in it. You have an evil villain called Haman. You have a queen being replaced. You have Mordecai, who undercovers a kind of plot to kill King Ahasuerus. You've got it all, but share with us how this was really real and what we can learn from this today.
Well, I think you're spot on there, Simon, saying this was real, this really did happen. And so often Christians read this story and just think, oh, isn't it a nice story? When actually we're seeing it worked out in our world every generation almost. We saw it worked out during the Second World War when there was an attempt to annihilate the whole Jewish community of Europe. And the same is there today, that same spirit, that same evil, that same desire to rid the world of Jewish people is at the very heart, unfortunately, of Islam. And Islam is seeking to get rid of Israel. They don't want Israel to exist. And I'm so glad that the whole thing about a two-state solution is being put to one side at the moment, because if that were to happen, then we would see October the 7th repeated over and over and over again. There would be no peace in the land. And so, the great hero of the story is Queen Esther, and what a woman she was. And, I aspire to be like her, to rise up to the occasion for such a time as this. This is the time for Christians to stand up.
Amen.
Alongside the Jewish people. This is your time, Christian, to stand with the Jewish people for such a time as this. If we don't do it now, we've missed it. And so, let's not just, appreciate the story in the Bible, but let's apply it to our lives and say, Lord, here I am. Make me like Queen Esther. and make me, a hero of the faith. Absolutely. Who will stand alongside the Jewish people in their time of trouble.
And Mordecai, because without Mordecai, Queen Esther wouldn't have had the courage to do what she did. Absolutely. And he uncovered the plot, and he's the one that called her to fast. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Mordecai. But yes. Let's have a look now at David Parsons' take on this incredible Jewish festival known as Purim.
We're here in the Jewish quarter in the old city of Jerusalem, and everyone is looking forward to the holiday of Purim. This is a joyous time, especially for the children. They dress up in colorful costumes. The boys like to be pirates and cowboys. And of course, every little Jewish girl likes to dress up as a princess, just like Esther in the book by her name. They also eat these little pastries called Haman or Haman's ears. But Purim also marks a very serious event in Jewish history, as told in the book or scroll of Esther.
During the time of Israel's exile to Babylon, a beautiful young Jewish girl was chosen by King Ahasuerus, king of Persia, to be his new queen. The young girl, named Esther, is informed by Mordecai, her uncle, of a plot to wipe out the Jews. Mordecai pleads with Esther to appeal to the king on behalf of her people and to challenge Haman, the king's advisor responsible for the decree. King Ahasuerus revokes Haman's decree, and Haman himself is hanged on the gallows he had constructed.
Now Mordecai, the Bible says, is from the tribe of Benjamin. And if you read the text carefully, it also says he's actually from the family of King Saul. Meanwhile, Haman is an Agagite. This means he was a descendant of King Agag, who Saul failed to kill at the command of the prophet Samuel. And this means that Haman, through Agag, was an Amalekite, Israel's oldest and most bitter enemy, all the way back to the time of the Exodus from Egypt. So what is actually playing out in the book of Esther is another chapter in this long war between Israel and Amalek. Yet this should not surprise us, as Exodus 17 says, "The Lord shall have war with Amalek from generation to generation." Now with that in mind, let's listen to what Haman says to the king of Persia about the Jews.
Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all other peoples, and they do not keep the king's laws. Therefore it is not fitting for the king to let them remain."
Here, Haman is trying to poison the mind of the king of Persia against the Jews. He says they're different. They're not like us. They're evil. They don't belong here. Let's get rid of them. Yet thank God Queen Esther was there, prepared as a hidden deliverer for her people, and we can say, Am Israel High, the people of Israel live. Still, it seems new Hamans arise in every generation, seeking to destroy the Jewish people. And the question is, who's going to be there to help deliver them? In modern times, we saw the rise of a new Haman named Hitler. He said the Jews were different. They're evil. In fact, they're vermin and need to be exterminated. And sadly, there were not enough Christians around to help rescue the endangered Jewish people. Today, there is a new Haman rising once again in Persia. His name is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He also says the Jews are different, that they're evil. In fact, they're not even human. And he wants to wipe the Jewish nation off the map. I'm David Parsons with the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem. And we're committed to standing against the Hamans that arise in our day, seeking to destroy the Jewish people. We're standing against the lies and the evil plots against Israel today. And one of the ways we're doing this is through our unique partnership with Yad Vashem.
The festival of Purim might be about dressing up in fancy costumes. It might be about eating kind of nice food and celebrating the deliverance through the hands of Mordecai and Queen Esther, but it's also a dark story that reminds us of Satan's plans to try and destroy Israel and the Jewish people. And sadly, there are Hamans rising today, and this is why we need to speak up against this evil that's represented in Jew hatred. We're running out of time. We're going to focus a little bit more on the aid projects that the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK are involved in, but share with us the wonderful work that this ministry does by involving itself in many wonderful projects that bless Israel and the Jewish people, from horse therapy to dog therapy to building bomb shelters to giving school children rucksacks when they go to school, and of course helping Holocaust survivors.
Well, it's a fairly extensive program that the ICEJ has in Israel, and at this moment in time we're focusing on rebuilding communities and helping to some of the communities that were destroyed during October 7th to start again. You know, we're helping rebuild or build a therapy centre for music, a music therapy centre. So that's something that the UK branch are involved in, and of course we're continuing to support Holocaust survivors. We're continuing to help older people just in the struggling times, those that have been relocated from the north and from around Gaza. The need is just so great, actually, that any support and help is just so gratefully received.
And Sam, very quickly, share with our viewers with your camera there why it's so important to get involved in this ministry called ICEJ UK, help to support Israel and the Jewish people. It's got less than 2 minutes left.
Yes, Simon, thank you for that opportunity. Yes, I would say to any person who can hear us on this broadcast, we need your support now. If you are a committed Christian, I would definitely say get in touch with the ICEJ. You can go online, you can Google, but definitely there's so many different ways that you can get involved, not just in giving money financially, even though we would definitely encourage you to do that. There's, as Len mentioned, there's many different aid projects, humanitarian aid that we are actually delivering in Israel. But also here in the UK, your local Jewish community needs you to stand up now and speak up on their behalf. I want to appeal particularly to the young people of our generation right now who have got many skills in technology, social media. We need your support. Please come and join us and help us to get that word out to support the Jewish community.
Excellent. And 20 seconds, Len. It's vital, isn't it, this ministry, to help support this ministry to be a blessing to Israel and the Jewish people at this critical time?
Yeah, please get involved. You know, get in touch with our office. We'll send you information through the post, through email, so that you'll be kept up to date with the challenges that we face every day in blessing the Jewish people.
Sam and Len, great job on Jerusalem Dispatch this month. Well done. Great to see you both, and thank you so much. And I want to thank you for watching this programme home. Please would you support the ministry of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem UK as they bless Israel and the Jewish people. And you too can be a modern Mordecai or a modern Esther by standing in the gap for the Jewish people and for Israel at this dangerous time in world history. So think about praying and supporting the ministry of ICEJ UK. So thank you for watching this month's edition of Jerusalem Dispatch.
Catch the wind, he's carrying you.